Welcome to Seneco Life News Capsule. Sri Lanka's vehicle market is shifting gears. Volumes are rising. While small cars, two-wheelers and EVs drive most of the demand, distortions in tax policy and government intervention in credit markets continue to muddy the road ahead. From BYD's strategic rise to the near collapse of the three-wheeler segment, Murtaza Jafferjee, chairman of Advocata, breaks down the data and what it reveals about Sri Lanka's economy, policy failures, and what needs to change. Murtaza, we've seen over 95,000 new vehicle registrations up to now this year. What does this say of our motor vehicle industry?
So we had restricted imports for almost 5 years, and it was only since 1st February that we allowed motor vehicles. We had allowed commercial vehicles and buses a few months earlier. So there's a lot of pent-up demand that you are seeing, and that kind of explains the large momentum that we are seeing in vehicle registrations. Now, there is probably about a month difference between the time they are imported and by the time they are sold and registered. So the statistics that I have for the month of June are registrations and not necessarily imports.
Which types of vehicles are you seeing currently being in the highest demand?
If you take the month of June, and I've just got the statistics, there was about 22,300 total vehicle registrations, out of which two-wheelers are 13,300 because it's a much more affordable vehicle. And interestingly, even in the two-wheeler segment, about 25% are electric. That's an emerging class of electric vehicle, and probably it's going to grow faster and faster. So that's about 50% of the market. The next highest category are SUVs and crossovers. So you have very small crossover vehicles like the Toyota Race and some Honda vehicles, etc. And that gives you about 3,100. And the next category is motor cars. Again, it's dominated by very small cars. And the definition of small cars is that they would have an engine that is less than 1,000 cc, or they would have the motor size of an electric vehicle less than 100 kilowatts. Followed by vans, about 481 units, and then pickups and then commercial vehicles.
So from what you've told me, EVs are picking up, smaller cars are picking up. But is there still a market for luxury vehicles? For instance, a Bentley Flying Spur was imported in May. Is there a market still for luxury vehicles?
Yeah, I would define a luxury vehicle something more than, say, 50 million. So you would, at the very extreme, go up to something like a Rolls Royce, which would be north of 400 million. A Bentley would be north of 250 million. But those are at the very, very ultra luxury level. There are very few of them. You would have 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units. But there's a lot of imports in that 100 to 200 million. So what would that be? You would have Lexus Jeeps that retail for about 130 to 140 million. You would have the large Land Cruiser 300s. You would have Mercedes-Benz. A lot of the Mercedes-Benz that have been ordered, say, through the agent demo, they have still not come. And you probably start seeing them in July, August, because they have to be factory ordered and manufactured and sent. And then you have between 50 and 100 million, which would be like the Land Cruiser 250, what we used to call Prado. So all of that put together would represent only about 2% or less of total vehicle imports. Even in the car category, it would be less than 5%.
How have recent tax changes on vehicle imports affected the overall volume and also the variety of cars coming into Sri Lanka?
To my recollection, the level of taxation after the review somewhere in January is probably higher than it has ever been previously. So I think the Deputy Treasury Secretary at a meeting of COPEF said that for every dollar of imports, they are collecting $1.7 worth of taxes. Probably that figure may come down because it is probably skewed to some of the higher end things that have come in. I don't see those higher end vehicle momentum continue at the same rate to the end of the year. So you will probably have the more affordable side. Nevertheless, say some of these smaller cars that are imported from India, they would probably be 40% of the price of what they are in Sri Lanka. So how it has influenced the market is that 95% are small cars, as I said, and that's a much more affordable segment. But even an affordable vehicle is at least 10 million rupees. These things used to be like 3 million rupees pre-crisis, pre-inflation. And what has happened is that because of the affordability issue, the financing is getting longer. So typically, vehicle leases used to be 5 years. Now they have been extended to 8 years. That's how they are overcoming the affordability crisis. So what you are seeing is that extremely wealthy people who kind of want to feed their ego are buying these very, very expensive vehicles. But majority of them are more affordable, the 10 million rupee, 15 million rupee, 20 million, which is also very, very expensive. But by extending the period of financing, that's how they made it affordable. Although I must say that in most categories, the financing is still only about 50%. So 50% are paying cash and buying it.
We are noticing more and more EVs on the road. What trends are you seeing in the EV vehicle segment?
When you take the Chinese EV manufacturer, it is BYD that has a full presence in Sri Lanka because it is the local distributor is a joint venture between John Keels and Chowdhury Group from Nepal. The Chowdhury Group has historically been a big investor in hotels in Sri Lanka, but they have got the franchise for BYD for both Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, from what I understand. So you have generally a reputed distributor, co-major, and China's number one car company, which has a technological advantage on their blade batteries. So we have a very idiosyncratic tax system in Sri Lanka that you have a unit rate and on a value rate. So what the Chinese are able to do is that they are able to adjust the size of the motor engine to adhere to lower rates of taxation, right? I mean, they're not avoiding taxes. It's just that the way the tax system is designed. So if you take the Atto, the BYD Atto, in most markets, it would have a 150 kilowatt motor. In Sri Lanka, it's slightly less than 100. So then, because there is one band of taxation up to 100 kilowatts, you benefit from a lower band of taxes. So the idiosyncrasies of the tax system and the fact that they are competitive and they look good and there is a good distributor, that is the reason why BYD, for example, in June, there was about 1,250 registrations, up from about 850 registrations the previous month. So they are commanding 20 to 30% of the market in their segments.
In the next 3 to 5 years, how do you see the motor vehicle industry?
Historically, there is a misunderstanding that vehicles create balance of payment crisis. That is completely wrong. And vehicles have been seen as a harmful good, what economists call a bad good. I mean, you can say cigarettes are harmful. It's harmful for your health. Alcohol may be considered a sin product, etc. But vehicles are not harmful products. The fact that if you put vehicles on the road and it creates congestion, the tools that we have used is completely inappropriate because we had a dysfunctional tax system. So it's easy to tax cars, because it's a highly desirable object and it comes through the border. And, the population has got used to the fact that if you want a car, you have to be willing to pay very high taxes. But now there is emphasis on income-based taxation. And there is a broad-based VAT system. most things, exemptions have been removed. So these balance of payment crises that came due to excess spending, due to loose fiscal and monetary policy, that no longer holds. Like, for example, there was an article in yesterday's paper which says a Treasury official is basically warning the central bank that there's excessive enthusiasm for vehicles. But that is completely flawed. We are one of the few countries that produce monthly current account statistics. We are running current account surpluses. And the June central bank purchases of foreign exchange came out last Friday. And they have a net purchase of $110 million. So there is no risk to the balance of payment because these cars are coming. And, you know, if you are paying $1.7 in taxes for every dollar of import, that's the best thing that can happen with the fisc. So those concerns that we used to have previously are no longer valid.
Kaleidoscope is on 4 digital channels: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Do subscribe, follow, and like us.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Sri Lanka Life.